My name is Diane, and I am currently residing in Mexico. But I don't know how to describe myself, honestly. I don't even know, like how I ended up here, to be honest. It's a long journey, right? I used to be, I grew up a leftist. I grew up an anti-Zionist, actually. A lot of my friends were anti-Zionist. It was very normal for me to be an anti-Zionist. Everybody was an anti-Zionist around me. It was very normal. I didn't know any Jewish people. Um, and so I just, and I even joined Islam to study Sufism for a while, and it was a couple of years that I got into it, and I just really, like learned a lot about Islam, da 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 da. And but one day I just woke up. I was like, this isn't really me. I noticed that there were a lot of holes in Islam, and so I just decided to go on my own journey. I went to the Amazon jungle, I traveled, and I did a lot of things. So I ended up here. That's how I ended up here. And I did a lot of transformative stuff within myself, like transforming all of that conditioning and brainwashing to come to, to get to a point where I can really understand myself, and see what was really happening. And then when October 7th happened, I just couldn't believe. Like I just, I didn't, all of my friends jumped on this bandwagon except for like me and maybe like three others. And there were still some that, even though they weren't completely overtaken, but what I call a mind virus, they were still saying little things here and there, like because it comes with the territory. Like all of these like poor spiritual truth seeker types, they just get sucked into these narratives that, oh, it must be against the establishment, so I'm going to believe that, but they're misled and brainwashed pretty much. So, yeah, I just started seeing it and I felt, compelled to share what I knew because I have so much knowledge in Islam and a lot of the history of Israel even. And I've been to Israel twice now, before and after October 7th. And so it only adds to, like, the things that I can say. And I'm still learning, actually, as we go. I'm learning so much because the Jewish people, having not known Jewish people all my life, and finally getting to know so many different kinds of Jewish people and seeing that they have like 1,000 different opinions. And I'm like, I came from the background of thinking they were a monolith to like, oh, actually, this, there's something special here going on. Like they're and it's been like really a pleasure to like go into this, what I call a field, this collective field of just knowledge. And I don't know, I just learned so much. Anyway, so that's my introduction. I'm just babbling at this point. So one day a friend invites me to Burning Man. I didn't plan it. Same day, got a ticket, went. And supposedly people planned this out for months. Okay. I didn't plan it. I ended up in an Israeli camp, like full of Israelis. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting because there was still a part of me that believed that Jews ruled the world. There was still a part of me, and this was like, maybe 8 years ago. And so I'm hanging out with them and I'm really like open at this point in my life. I left Islam. I was doing a lot of plant medicines. I was doing this kind of healing work. And then I was just like, even then, even the plant medicines didn't heal me. Okay. It's kind of like you still have to make that choice. And I just like sat there and observed, and I made friends with all of them, and we danced and we had so much fun. And I still have, I still am in contact with them today. But that's kind of like my first experience with Israelis. And I was like, oh, they're actually really cool people. They're really organized, maybe from the military. Um and so it kind of big. And then when I started going into my travels, I started traveling after that. I started seeing a lot of Israelis because a lot of Israelis travel, and I already felt like, oh, I know them. And so I got to know them. And it was just slow. And then even after that, I still didn't really know anything. And I started asking questions. Like there's this YouTube channel, Ask Project by Corey Gil Shuster. And I was watching his channel ever since I was like on the Free Palestine side. Okay. I've been watching his channel. It existed for this long. And I started rewatching his channel again, but with the perspective that I'm open to like learning new things. That's the key. It's the decision. It's a person's decision to like want to like learn new things. And I started learning like, oh, I was like, oh, actually, I'm gonna ask this question. Like, I don't really know what happened here. What happened here? So I started looking into the history and it just blew my mind. And I know there are people too who there's even like some Jews like who are like, oh, I grew up learning about Israel's history and they turned on to the Palestine side. So it could happen both ways. Just because you co-educate yourself, it doesn't necessarily mean, you know what I mean? It's like a choice. It's like what do you want to choose? It's just like I think it's up to the person and it's very rare. Like it's we lost so many friends. We had one guy who was just like at first he was like sympathetic towards the war, and all of a sudden he started showing us like all of this Rothschild conspiracies, and it was just like a lost cause. And so yeah, it is possible, but like I said, it's really up to them. It's free will. Like but I mean, education, like when I had my old Facebook account, it's been deleted ever since, but there was a kid who was like conversing with me and he was willing to learn. He was like, what about this? What about this? And he wasn't, he was asking me in good faith, like what, and so he was willing to learn. And so there are people who would, but you can't really predict it. I I would rather surround myself by Jewish people, okay? Because of this. Like if I surround myself with Christians, they're always gonna somehow insert that, I'm not saved and I'm not even joking. I was once invited to this like screening of a movie and the guy who was hosting it was like the Passion of Christ. He was like the movie, The Passion of Christ. He was like inserting it in the presentation or something, and then he was telling us, and then his voice raised, like in the third half of it. I mean, the last third of the presentation, his voice started to raise, and it was like, if you don't follow Jesus Christ, you are gonna be damned. It was just like, wow, what is this? And I remember it was so horrible. And I can't be myself talking to somebody who's a religious Christian or depends, right? I'm just generalizing, or a Muslim, because there's always something in the back that's like, you're not good enough for us. You're not good, and it's weird because they project this onto the Jewish people that they're the chosen ones, that they're like better than, but that's not true at all in my experience. Um, and that's the thing too. It's rooted in religion, and I think religion is very important, an important part of this discourse. Even if you're an atheist Jew or what have you, it doesn't matter. Religion is important because it came from religion, anti-Semitism. I had this dream because I was like, what, where I was really trying to understand where anti-Semitism comes from. And I had this very vivid dream where I was in a cathedral and all of these like pro-Palestine protests were in there and they're unrelated, but it's related. It's religion. When I was younger, I was raised Catholic. And I remember hearing the word Judas. Judas is the apostle that betrayed Jesus. Judas sounds like Jew. And so I thought growing up, nobody taught me this. I thought growing up that, oh, it's the Jews that betrayed Jesus because Judas. And so there's little things like this people don't realize. And religion is deep-seated. It is passed on from generation to the next, and it's coded in our DNA. You know what I mean? Really weird because like all my in my healing career, I would say, you have to try to stay neutral because it's the more enlightened thing to do. Okay, it's also the professional thing to do, but I just couldn't help it. I was like, I couldn't, it was hitting me in the stomach. Like when I see these things that they were saying, and I was like, I can't just stay quiet. And so I started getting anxious. And whenever I get anxious, that means I'm holding something in. So I just like started sharing it. And oh yeah, and some of my friends would message me and they're like, you're starting to sound like Hitler. I was like, no, you're sounding like Hitler. Like, I don't know the truth. They're really good. I don't know what it is that's doing this. Maybe it's the devil, maybe it's, I don't know what, but it's like they're taking the truth and really inverting it. It's like a lot of truth inversion across politics, across spirituality, all over the place. The way I see the collective sometimes is that it's one, they're just interactions of like different entities, right? Of the way, like if you zoom out a bit, if you had like God's view, you could see that it's just like a couple of, creatures interacting with each other. And so I was given this information actually. And I'm just going to talk about it really frankly because I think it's important and it might sound kind of weird, but in my first ayahuasca ceremony, the very first place that it took me to was the Draconian galaxy. And I was like, what is this weird planet? What is this like? Why did it take me here? Second ayahuasca journey, it taught me about reptilian factions and how there's three factions. One was black, the second was blue, and the third one was green. And the black one seated like Babylon, like Babylonian Empire, and it was showing me how it spread like the plague. So, um, so draconian energy, and I want you to look at it like an archetype. Draconian energy is predatory. It is what I would call where narcissism comes from. And it's like just this kind of energy that wants to dominate and it wants to like step on its victim and just like, gaslighting, all of that stuff is there. Like really like a predator to a prey, like how a predator would act to a prey. And so that's when I see this dynamic, I started seeing it like I experienced it myself, first of all. Like you can't really know something unless you experience it, right? So I experienced it and I lived with this narcissistic guy and he was just like all of, and I was like thinking, no, I just need to like heal myself and it's gonna shift and change and nothing really changed. The only thing was when I healed myself, I was strong enough to get out of there, out of that situation. And so I started seeing, like, really understanding how the narcissistic dynamic was working and how it felt like, being gaslit all the time and made to feel like I was wrong when I wasn't. And I had to tiptoe, like walk around in eggshells, always trying to please them. And I started seeing this conflict and it was very similar. Like I saw, like even October 7th, how they breached the border. And the biggest thing with narcissistic and empath dynamic, I would call it, is is the boundaries. Like if you have weak boundaries, that's how a narcissist can get you. If you don't know how to say no and stand up for yourself, that's how they'll get you. And so I saw October 7th, the fence breach as like, oh, wow, this is a major violation of a boundary here. And not only that, but it also symbolizes like the people that were hit in the South,
Yeah.
and how they were, the empaths, the ones who opened their hearts and their homes to these terrorists. And I'm guilty of this also because I feel bad for people all the time. And so I'm nice to them and all of a sudden, before you know it, they're like enriched in your life and they're trying to take from you, da 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 da. So it comes with learning. I mean, we learn this way. And I don't know, some people are better at it than others, but I definitely saw it in Israeli society, how everybody was, everyone there's like, is it our fault? Like, what did we do wrong? But it's like there's just that predatory nature on the other side. And one thing I know too, and I'm not just saying this, I'm not being racist or anything. I'm not just, this is my observation. And I also lived in two Arab households. Um, when I was researching the kafala system within Arab countries, it's actually a systemic way for them to enslave foreign workers, especially women. So they have a rule that if you're a foreign woman working in some of these states, you cannot leave the house without the permission of the employer, which is basically like slavery. They take your passport away. If you try to escape, I don't know, they'll find people to to come and get you. So actually one worker every week kills themselves in these situations. And there's like people who are murdered. They found some lady in a freezer, I don't know how many months ago that was. Um, People from like I don't know, what country was that? A woman who came home with like nails driven in her skin and her skull. It's crazy. So I was researching this and I came across just one video on YouTube and I'm scrolling through the comments and I'm seeing some Arab commenters. I'm from Lebanon and actually I can tell you that this is a narcissistic culture. And it was not just one comment, but like 10 of them in this one video. And it made me think. I was like, oh, they're actually noticing it too themselves, that there's a narcissism here. It's been really interesting because it's like okay, so before I even knew this existed, I was just like kind of feeling hopeless on my end because I was like, oh, I there's so many accounts to report. There's so many, you know, things to call. I mean, I had like a notes to self WhatsApp thread just for myself where I copy and paste my generic responses so that it would be streamlined. Like I can just copy and paste it, and I don't have to keep typing it and. Um, and I was just like, there's gotta be like, I know I'm not the only one doing it. I know a lot of Jewish people are doing it, but then and then I was so happy when this existed because I was like, oh my God, like finally, like that burden's been lifted, that it's not so crazy because it's a lot of voice. It's like billions. I mean, not online, maybe like, I don't know. I mean, there's 1.9 billion Muslims, and then there's like plus a billion more of anti-Semites, okay? So you're dealing with billions of people, of voices against the Jewish voices online. But the Jewish voice is strong. I can see that. Like they come with facts. They come with like calmness and I don't know how to do it, but I'm just like anyway, so I see this and I'm just like, yeah, it was such a like not a blessing, but like it was so relieving to see that this app existed because I was like, oh, I could just put in, this person needs to go, like whatever they're posting, their account needs to be reported. So yeah, it was really easy to learn. It was easy, it's very intuitive. I haven't I want to make a demo with my phone to start a new account to put in a reel. And then I want to make a graphic so that people can see it step by step. So like a reel and a graphic. That's my plan to like get it out there. I was only initially worried that, the other side would get a hold of it, like, and do something with it because they would do that. Like there's people who follow me who only follow me for the sole reason of harassment, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's people like they have no business following me. They're not like into my work. They're not into, but I could see that they're only following me to make comments and to disrupt. So, I mean, I wouldn't do that. I don't follow pro-Palestine
Yep.
accounts even to see their perspective. I already know their perspective. I was in that boat for a while. So, it's like I don't follow them. I don't go to their accounts to harass them. So, it takes a special kind of person to follow somebody that just to harass. So there's a bunch of these people out there, and that's the only thing I was worried about. Um, we
Yep.
have something in the chat. I was told the same thing. There are 0.3% Jews. Yeah. There are many Indians, Christians, and people. Yeah, that's one thing too. Oh, this I'm gonna address this comment because it's really important. There's actually 2.14 billion Christians in the world. And even if half of them are anti-Semitic, that's still, like a billion. And then you have like a billion more Indians who are Hindus that are with you. And so that's a really good allyship in my opinion, because it's like the truth will ultimately prevail. Maybe I'm an optimist to a fault, but I really do believe that. Like I do believe that the truth will prevail. Like when something bad happens to us and we're open-minded about it, we're not stuck on like why it sucked that it happened to us, it transforms into a blessing, right? And that's usually how it turns out. I was in the Muslim circles and they always talked about how one day the world will be Muslim.
Mm.
And that's the one thing too, what made me leave was I was in the spiritual Muslim community with the Sufis. And there was, so we're into like weird stuff and we're talking about like the end of days and revelations and what was going to happen at the end of days. And there's that hadith, which is in the Hamas charter, in the 1988 Hamas charter, not the current one, where it talks about how the Muslims, the end of days will come when the Muslims will kill the Jews, will fight and kill the Jews, and the Jews will hide behind the stones and the trees, which is exactly what happened at Nova.
Yeah.
And so to them, bringing about this end of days is great because that's when God's going to come and save everybody. It's going to be judgment day and everything's going to be like great, because God's going to come and just make this all go away. And so that's why um they want to fulfill it. They want to see it happen.
Yeah.
When I started talking about Islam, okay, and what it was about, they were like, that sounds racist, that sounds like, I'm like, listen, like there is a caliphate, there's 100-year plan. Iran wants to destroy the Arab states. Okay, that's why they're sending out these proxies. Iran has maybe like 20 proxies across the Middle East. And they're sending them out to destroy the Arab states so they can create the caliphate. And the Jewish nation is the only nation, the only state that is not Arab Muslim. So that's why they want to destroy it. And maybe, I don't know, there's other regions too that they want to destroy. But the idea is to rebuild the caliphate. Once okay, let's say their thing, happens and everyone's Muslim now. There's still like, all these different sects that are still gonna war with each other. So yeah, it's not actually practical. And with the age of information now, like there's so many people who are like seeing the BS also. So it's not like before where they can just come into a region and rape and pillage and convert everybody. It's not like that anymore. It's like now it's an information war. So it just really depends on how well we play it, like how well, like, I would encourage, like, I was going to do a little workshop to show people how to make content or how to, like, show them the tools that I use or how I gather information, how I, use ChatGPT to help me with ideas or formulate my ideas and just do this so that every Jewish person, every Jewish voice who are pro-Israel, who care, can actually put some stuff out there because I think it matters.